Hey, welcome to Pinpoint Fishing. My name is David Standards, and this is tips and tricks and how-to videos and adventures. Well, today we're going to talk about ignition switches. It'll be a how-to video on how to change it out and what to look for. If you own a tracker boat or a Mercury outboard, I personally have a TX 190 tracker, 115 horse EFI, and I'm on my third switch. It locked up on me yesterday while I was on the lake, and I was fortunate to get across the lake, but the switch had locked up internally and it would not move for nothing. And there's an issue with these switches, and it's not so much the electrical, it's more the mechanical dynamics of its operation. And there's nothing more aggravating than having to go to Bass Pro Shop and spend about 115 bucks. In fact, I still have the original receipt here. You might see the price on that. And it's probably been about 3 or 4 years since I changed this out, and I keep all my stuff when I change them out, so I can find a different way, an avenue of saving money. I'm going to do it. And I actually found this switch on the Amazon, $35, and I have it taken out of the package. I ordered it yesterday afternoon when I got back from the lake, and did a little research, and wow, I was amazed. And then I went and got a kit. It's marine grade, so that way you can do the splicing. I did find a part number for the Amphenol plug, and if you want to buy that, you have to buy the kit. Problem is, you got to be able to crimp the wires to the pins. It's a 3-piece setup, and you got to make sure their orientation is right. And I'll put that up online if you want to review the Amphenol plug. A lot of information on the internet. What you think is right, you better double check it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to reuse my plugs, but I'm going to cut this about right here, skin it. And this one I was able to get the switch to operate, so I'm going to check the contact closures. But even for backup, I went ahead and printed out the wiring diagram. I'll also post that up. And I want to verify the operation in the color codes. I found on the internet Mercury Marine color codes. So this will be real handy, so I can go through what each wire color strip and all the notations. So anyway, I'll post that up as well. But don't be deceived. I found this on the internet, and man, it looked just like my Amphenol plug. I said, man, this is it, because it was under the Mercury, but finding out this exactly don't match up. The color code to my pinouts don't match up, so this is pretty much trash. I'm not going to go buy it. So do your due diligence and research. But what I'm going to do is inspect this. I even took this out of the package. I was quite excited when it came in. I just can't believe it came in so fast. I'm about an hour away from Bass Pro Shop, so the amount of gas it took me to go up there and then buy the switch and come back, I'm probably going to spend $150 time I do gas and my time. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is inspect the wire. I'm probably going to ohm this out, and it's a 3-position switch for the guys who don't know that. So you have your off mode, and you push in, that's your choke. Then you click one time, that's your accessory or your start. What that really does on the Mercuries, for the 4 cycles, it primes the fuel pump. So your fuel pump will turn on, and you really should wait about 5 to 10 seconds. And you can hear that fuel pump when it hits, when it locks, when it stops, then it's you're ready to turn over and crank. And then after that, it should stay primed up, but they'll say wear and tear on your starter. And so my thinking is, once I check all this out and confirm that the operation works, for $35, I think I'm going to buy another one and go ahead and put the plug on, and vacuum seal it and put it in the boat. So if I'm on the lake and across the lake and another switch fails, the plug-in is underneath the steering column, so I can just plug in my backup and have a way out. All right, finally got the key, managed to get it out with some brute force. Hope I didn't tear anything up in the meantime. We're gonna spin this nut off. Pull it through the back side. Yeah, tight. All right, got to almost unscrew it like such a tight fit. I'm gonna pull it out. There's no way you can put this plug from the bottom side with all the bracketry in the way. But there you go. Now we got it out. Ready to install the new one. But what I'm gonna do is cut these wires off here, and I'm gonna use this same plug, and I'm gonna join it to the new switch. And I'll show you how I'll do that here in a minute. All right, so I finished opening out the wires and confirming, so everything looks good so far. Now we're gonna start stripping out the insulation off and start prepping it to put the sleeves on, which would be these here, solder type with a heat gun. And we're gonna slide them down over the wires. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the plug. And once we get that all done, then we can start the assembly on the boat. Anyway, it's gonna take a little bit, but we'll get the gist of it. Looks like I'm trimming out about a 1/2 inch. I'm using 14 gauge wires, so I'm gonna use the 14 inch. So we're going to slide the piece over that and we'll get them all started. There is a wire gauge chart on the fittings for the connections to tell you what color code to use for what size wire. So the blue is good from, looks like 14 to 16 gauge, which is what we have. Again, this is made by Kuject. I'm not familiar with them, but this is going to be the first time I use them, but they look pretty cool on how to use them as far as making joints up real quick and being marine grade product. All right, so now we've got all our fittings slid down. And then the next, we're going to strip this down, and then we're going to form the wire across each other and then slide it over. I'm using one of these kind of wire guide, so I know I keep all my wires stripped the same length. Roughly about a 1/2 inch, looks like. 4 5/8. Alright, so now we got them all stripped. So let's begin the process of wrapping the wires and sliding the joints over. So first thing we want to do is make sure we match all the color codes together. We're just simply going to twist these wires into each other. Slide over it, and then we're gonna kind of make it look like this right here, if you can see that joint. And then we're going to heat shrink that, and that solder will melt into the wires, and then the heat shrink will shrink around the insulation and make it watertight. We got it. Alright, so now we've got everything made up. We've got all our joints made up. We've verified the wires. We verified the wiring scheme with the Mercury versus the wiring scheme that was printed out with the Amazon. And so far, we're going to go to install this and find out how it works. So let's set the camera up in a different position and put this thing together. Okay, I just noticed that the nut, this is the OEM, and the one that came with Amazon, and this was a little bit thicker, so I'm going to go with the thicker one. That's the OEM one. Fish that down, and we want to make sure get that plug coming down through the little bitty area the plug-in needs to go. Come at the bottom. Seat it all the way up. Thicker nut. Before we tighten it, we're going to make sure we're in the right position. Alright, start. This is probably a metric size. I'm going to guess probably a 24, 25, or 26. Right now, this will get me started. I'm going to take this opportunity to clean this windshield out before we install it, so I'll be right back. Before I put the windshield on, I'm going to clean my vinyl dashboard with this 303 cleaner. Then once I clean it, then I'm going to put the protective, and it's also 303 cleaner. And this is some good stuff, way better than Armor All. It lasts longer, and it really helps as much as it blows out in the sun, out in the elements, and it'll really make the shine come back. And it's really good for upholsteries, dashboards, and etc. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish wiping this down, put the windshield on, then we'll be ready to test the ignition switch. So now, this is 303, and this is the cleaner. I'm gonna go get the protective now, and it'll definitely put a nice coat, clear coat, not a clear coat, but a good shiny coat that looks pretty sharp. And one thing I would advise, do not put it on your steering column because it'll make it slick. So you always want to be able to grip your steering column. So do not put it on the steering column, just strictly on your dashboards and whatnot. Anyway, let's put the windshield on. I think we're good enough. Fish don't really care, but at least it'll look nice. So if you're going to use a screw gun, use this clutch. Go on maybe like 1 or 2. Don't go much more than that because you don't want to strip out your threads, but it's, I can hold it with my fingers. If I go to 1, I mean, it just got very little torque. That way you don't strip everything out. That's what that clutch is for the ones who don't know about it. Then I'll come back with a screwdriver and then I'll hand torque it myself. Make sure I got it as I want it. All right. So now we got to plug it in underneath the steering column, the ignition switch. Maybe I'll get the camera down here and kind of show you what we're looking at now. So we're going to take this plug and this plug, we're going to plug this in. All right, snapped in, so we should be ready to rock and roll. So this is what I'm talking about, having a spare ignition switch. Have one vacuum sealed in the bag. Since it's only 35 bucks, might as well make one up and sure help out in an emergency situation. Unplug it and plug your switch down here and get you out of a bind. But anyway, we're ready to test, see if it'll crank over or not. I may take it outside and hook up the water hose to it. We'll check out the switch, get the water hose hooked up.